Hi everyone, Canthony Dutano here, the internet's loudest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Little Big album, Antipositive Part 2. This is the newest mini album from Russian dance music outfit Little Big. They have been at it actively since 2013, and they are pretty well known at this point for their provocative, satirical, and over-the-top music videos, many of which have racked up millions of views at this point and have become viral sensations across the Eastern Bloc and Europe. And while the group has gotten some attention over here in the States, a lot of people have mostly written them off as like a Russian D-Antword. And I guess there's good reason for that. Their big premiere live performance was opening up for them. They have a similarly goofy look and demeanor. Their whole aesthetic and popularity is heavily reliant and dependent on their music videos. And they're not just simply a music group, but kind of a multimedia endeavor. But having said all that, I do think there are some artistic qualities that clearly separate these two acts, even though there are some surface level parallels. Their whole music style is much more specific to Eastern Europe and rave culture. It's not a horrendous 10-car pileup of all these international mainstream influences just smashing together in the trashiest way possible. Not to say Little Big's music and music videos are tasteful though. Being trashy and looking trashy is kind of part of their aesthetic. And it's not like there are no overt Western influences in their songs either. I mean, they're certainly not beyond working some rattling trap hi-hats and rapping into their songs too. And on their previous records, the group has dropped songs that have been blatantly influenced by breakbeat hardcore, punk, and dancehall, and industrial rock, and obviously house music. I feel like Little Big's whole sound is pretty much if you tried to produce Eurodance music, but for people with kind of a nihilist streak who had a very deep hatred for the world. Sure, on the surface, while you do have beats and choruses that are very sweet and very poppy, a lot of the lyrics and visuals do cut pretty deep into some sexual taboos, violence, war and world politics, and of course Russian culture as well. Whereas a lot of the lyrics and visuals of their South African counterparts have kind of devolved into extending the lore of the characters that Yolandi and Ninja have respectively come up with. Which can be fun, but it's something I don't really get all that much out of these days because the personalities they've developed over the years have gotten kind of stale and annoying. For sure, Little Big does have a lot of oddity and bombast and pomp, but I think they actually take the edge off of that a little bit with some self-awareness, some in-your-face and legitimately catchy choruses, and a dark sense of humor. Now, Antipositive Part 2 is the name of the group's latest endeavor over here, and it comes out off the back of one of the group's biggest viral hits to date, and that is the song Skippity, a track that is a very bold blend of pop and house, with some sexy verses, some ridiculous choruses that are laced with samples of dogs and cats and birds, synced up with a series of lyrical onomatopoeias, boom boom, pa pa pa, skibidi wah pa pa pa. The track is catchy, it's hilarious, it's utterly absurd, and the music video contains one of the worst viral dances I've ever seen in my entire life. With the group pushing fans and viewers to also take part doing the Skibbity challenge. And honestly, the whole thing seems like a very conscious parody of the idea of the viral dance craze. Come out with a catchy song that basically means nothing. It's so silly and it's so preposterous that it just earworms its way into your head. And then come out with a dance that's so simple nearly anybody could do it, but make sure it looks so ridiculous that nobody could really take it seriously, and anyone who takes part is just gonna look as a social experiment, which this track very clearly is, it's borderline genius and impeccably executed. Sadly, the rest of the material on the EP isn't nearly as sharp or as impactful. I mean, I did love the opening track, Liar, which features a super zany beat, these layered vocal calls of die, 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 die. That's on the hook, of course. The verses, by contrast, are really sassy, essentially dropping lyrics about military service and becoming cannon fodder for a rich oligarch class. It's a short, sweet banger with kind of a side of politics to it. The song Follow Me, featuring Tommy Cash, is not as hard-hitting or as memorable as the group's previous collaboration with the Estonian rapper Give Me Your Money, but the track still comes loaded with an undeniable house beat, a bouncy synth bass line, and a hook that comes straight out of the Eurodance playbook, which I think a lot of the ideas on this song do. But Little Big does experiment with it enough to put their own spin on it. It does feel like this is about the closest we're going to get to post-rave or art rave or post-EURODANCE in 2018. The record does take a slight nosedive after this point, though. There's a remix of the opening cut right in the middle of the album that doesn't really add that much variation to the LP and seems somewhat unnecessary. It just puts a really unfortunate lull in the middle of a project that doesn't really have the room for a snoozer. Meanwhile, Real People hits pretty hard, features some aggressive lyrics, some traditional call and response vocals, though it's not nearly as eccentric as some of the other tracks on here. And the personality of Little Big continues to melt away on tracks like Mon Ami and Little Boy, where the group is essentially delivering some really run-of-the-mill electropop. I mean, one track does feature a refrain sung in French where the group are propositioning someone for raw butt sex. And the other, I guess, is a piano-laced trap ballad that is legitimately a tribute to Mom, with the lyrics singing "I'm your little boy" and how, you wouldn't be here if not for Mom's love and care and attention. Sure, there's some elements of the track that seem unnecessarily dark and tortured and morose, and there's something oddly sexy, I think, about the vibe too. But on the surface of it, it still does feel like a full-hearted tribute to one's mother. Overall, I think this is a decent EP, and it's one of two the group has released this year. I think quality-wise, the previous one they put out, Antipositive Part 1, is a tad bit more consistent. And if you liked some of the material on this EP over here, I would highly recommend that you go try that one out. That, and I would most definitely give a shot to their Funeral Rave album that dropped in 2015, which features some of their biggest and most creative tracks. An album that, in retrospect, I wish I was aware of it at the time so I could have covered it. But overall, I'm just really liking the fun, creative, and nutty, and again, satirical personality and delivery of this group on the best tracks on this thing. Certainly reminding me of some of my favorite groups from the 90s and 2000s like Atari Teenage Riot and Rammstein, and maybe just a touch of mindless self-indulgence too. Now, even if Little Big does continue to drop somewhat spotty projects, I still do like their music videos and singles quite a bit. And if that's where a majority of their focus continues to lie going forward, so be it. Because honestly, I do think in the current mainstream musical landscape, they are a force that I like the presence of. I just really enjoy their crude mockery of everything. Established norms, taboos, good taste, societal BS, and hopefully they continue to do that and do it well on forthcoming projects. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 6 on this thing. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Little Big, forever.